Boo and happy Halloween, Pageant Gals. This is a super fun special episode that I'm adding in from a Pageant Gal podcast listeners that was actually requested by one of my clients, and we are sharing pageant coaching horror stories. Ooh, so scary, right? I think we all know if you are in the pageant industry, you've all got a scary story or two to tell about behind the scenes competition things, meltdowns, so many things in between, but I'm going to specifically be sharing with you three pageant coaching horror stories that I have experienced on my journey as a pageant coach. And I will say this episode was requested by our lovely Emma Dingle, who is in the Queen Collective. And let me tell you, I'm not just going to be sharing any random stories. Like these are probably, I would say, the three worst experiences I've had with clients. And even this, I will say, they're not that bad. I will say for 99% of the clients I work with, we have the most amazing clients. We literally do. The pageant gals are women of integrity. They are calm, collected, graceful, kind, but every now and then you got a bad apple that goes into the mix, and we live to tell the day. Plus, I'm also going to be sharing very valuable lessons for all of you that we can learn from these stories because not to say that any of you have done this before, but I want you to see it from a different perspective of, hey, maybe don't do those things if you are in the pageant client spot, and you can just see how this can end a little bit bad for a coach and be a horror story that we live to tell the day for. But my clients are amazing. Thank you, Emma, for requesting this episode. Happy Halloween, my gals, or whenever you're listening to this. And let's go into the very first pageant coaching horror story. The very first one I'm calling The Call That Never Ended. And this type of thing happens often. Let me set the stage. I was newer to pageant coaching. Honestly, I think all of these were in like my first 2 years of being a pageant coach. So very, very, knock on wood, very proud to say that I do not have a lot of bad client experiences. Like I honestly can't even think about one in the last couple of years that I would add to this. No, it was all on my journey as like a baby pageant coach. So the call that never ended. More so when I started coaching, I did a lot of introductory calls, like open calls where someone could come, we would chat before they actually booked to work with me. And on this call, typically I start off with like either, I don't remember what it was, but it's usually like a 20-minute call, 20 to 30 minutes where we find out about your goals, your struggles, what you're looking for help with, and then we talk about the coaching option that would work best for you. I still do these to this day. I just have a little bit of a different structure. And on this call, I asked this client the first question. First time I'd ever chatted with her, she was newer to the pageant industry. I think I asked her, like, tell me a bit about you or why you're starting to join pageants. And when I tell you, she spoke for 15 minutes straight. And you might think, Maria, that's not that bad. Like, what? I thought this was supposed to be like horror stories. Imagine somebody talking to you for 15 minutes and not stopping. I was shocked. I was too stunned to speak. And at one point, I was like, I want to stop her because she just keeps going on. And I found her out her whole life story, the whole thing, the whole kit and caboodle, aunties, uncles, dreams, goals, aspirations, childhood traumas, everything in 15 minutes. And keep in mind, at the time, the call was only like 20, maybe 25 minutes. I was like, I don't know where to go from here. After she was done, I don't think I said anything. I was like, I have no clue how to respond to that. I think I started off by saying that was a lot. Because I just, at no point at the time, I didn't want to be rude, right? We always want to be polite. And I just didn't know what to say. And she just kept talking. And I know we all know the feeling when somebody is like talking at you and not to you, but self-awareness. Like, notice that you have been speaking nonstop. And I will say this happens in some ways, but I will say it's more like I'll ask a client an interview question and they'll talk for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, why the heck was that interview answer 2 minutes long? That is way too long. Have some awareness that my eyes are glazing over and I'm not paying attention anymore. The worst part of this is that I still took her on as a client. Because again, when we were in baby coach mode, I was like, we're just gonna work with everybody and anybody. No, she did not win her title. And I will say, after she didn't win her title, she was kind of not super friendly. She didn't do anything like wrong or bad, but I just remember like on our post-pageant debrief, she just kind of had like a little bit of an attitude. And I was like, listen, girl, you literally did not shut up on our first call. So Why are you mad? Like, how did you think that this was going to end well for you in this competition? So I'm calling this the call that never ended. And the lesson is be self-aware and conversational with people. Don't go talking on for 15 minutes. Whenever somebody asks you a question, they're not asking you to tell them your whole life story. And I got to know her whole life story in that 15 minutes. Oh boy, it was a long one, and I still think about it to this day. And honestly, now if I were on a call with a client like that, I would probably let like 5 minutes go by and stop them. Like max 5 minutes, maybe not even then. Like when I could tell that they are rambling on, I would do something to stop them. Like I just would. And you might think that's rude or whatever, but I'm on a mission to help women get the support that they need. And I don't need your whole entire life story. You can tell me your whole life story when we work together, not on an introduction call. Give me it straight, give me it simply. So that was the call that never ended. And I hope that you're laughing on the other side of the screen. Imagine just me sitting here being like, nodding along, wondering like, she's still talking. She's still, okay, now we're in the sixth grade. Okay, now we're in her childhood friends. Okay. And just wondering when it was going to end. That is pageant coaching horror story number one. Number one, the call that never ended. Pageant coaching horror story number two. I'm calling this the momager meltdown. I feel like this is something that many coaches probably have experienced at some point, probably more so the ones that work with younger girls. I will say I don't work with like almost no younger girls. I've taken on one littles, and by littles I mean like she was in the division Little Miss client in like my entire 6 years of coaching. Like I do not take on littles. I don't love like communicating with moms for their daughters. I love talking to clients directly. That's why I work with mostly women over the age of 18. Even so, sometimes the moms will get involved. So I remember this was also when I was a new coach, newer to coaching, and this girl was wanting coaching. She was wanting to work with me, but at a later date. And I will say, anytime somebody says that to me, and if you're one of my pageant pros, I highly recommend this for you. I'm not recommending and I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to get the spot to work with me because my schedule could fill up, right? At the time I was working full time in nursing, my prices were changing, my packages were shifting. So it's not uncommon for me to say to clients, are you okay to pay a deposit now? I will hold your spot. I will lock in the rate. I will make sure that you get the support that you need, especially at the time when I was already very like starting to become more in demand when it came to coaching. And I just didn't have a lot of free time because I work so much. So that is not uncommon for me to do with clients. A lot of my clients do that to this day. You pay now, you start later, and then you just deduct that price. So I had this girl who was an adult, by the way. She paid $100 for a deposit. That's not that much. Now I think, I don't even know what my deposit rate is now. It didn't matter to me. The whole idea is you're paying an amount to keep the spot and keep the rate. 24 hours later, I am getting well, first of all, I got a message from her and I always preface like, this is non-refundable. Like, I'm not playing games here. This is we're a professional here. You're going to pay. It's non-refundable. You're locking in the spot. That's how it goes. I always say that before it was like written. It was more so just through like conversation. And I think she had messaged me 24 hours later to say, like, if we could change something. I don't remember all of the details, but I remember that 24 hours later, I was getting long messages from both her and her mom because I didn't get the message at first. She was like, oh, my mom's going to message you. Can you please reply to her? So I went in my message request and I'm getting book long stories from the mom and from her about all of these things about how they can't do this. They need that $100 for like food this week. And I don't even know, like long messages, long messages. And I was like, I think at first what I said to her was like, I don't, oh my gosh, I wish I would have triggered my brain a little bit more. I probably tried to block this out. But it was long messages, pretty much in terms of like what they need that money for and how they can't do this. And I should refund them. And if I don't refund them, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. And I was like, lady, trust me when I say, I don't want to work with you guys anymore. Like, please go far away and you'll never hear from me again. But at the time, I don't think I quite said it in that way. At first, I was probably like, this is a non-refundable deposit. Like, this is a standard I hold for my clients, to which it spurred on more long messages. And that's when I think they started saying, like, this is money for our groceries. We can't do this. And I was like, If you need money for groceries, please stop joining pageants. Like, nobody needs to do a pageant if you cannot feed yourself or put a roof over your head. That is not very queen behavior. So, long story short, I said, here is your $100 back. It obviously means much more to you than it does to me. Please do not ever contact me again for coaching. I didn't say that, but that is like the underlying message. That girl did not go on to win her pageant. Are we surprised? There is a theme here because if you are not going to handle yourself with integrity, composure, and grace, like honestly, you look like a hot mess. That girl and her mom look like a freaking hot mess. And you have to understand when you are making an investment in yourself, like take it, like I'm not forcing anybody to pay me. I don't care if you work with me. You can work with whoever you want, but don't go making a fool of yourself like I'm going to pay for this. No, you have to give me it back. I can't do that. Like you look like a mess. Pay for your bills, make sure you got food on the table, but don't go act, just be integral with the investments that you're making. I will say that does happen a little bit more often, probably in pageantry, because there is a lot of financial things that come up. But once your mom starts messaging me, and I wasn't even talking to your mom, I don't like that. Tell your moms to cool it, okay? Tell moms to cool it. So this was the momager meltdown. I probably couldn't even go back and find those messages because it was so long ago and I don't even remember like the handles or anything like that. But yeah, that is obviously a very frustrating thing to have to deal with as a coach. And long story short, it was not worth my energy. Not worth it whatsoever. So handle yourself with grace, respect, and know that when you are investing in something and investing in yourself, honor your commitment, honor your investment. When I invest in something and it says non-refundable and then I don't do it, I go, darn, that was my bad. Should have thought a little bit more. Or oh, well, it happens, right? Because that is how a queen carries herself. She's not like expecting everybody over to bend backwards for her. She's like, no, I make decisions. I and I take ownership over those decisions. This was the momager meltdown. That is story number 2. Story number 3 is my favorite one. My favorite one in terms of pageant coaching horror stories because it really does live up to the name of pageant coaching horror story. Versus the other two, you might be like, okay, Maria, like those are inconvenient. Those are not fun, but you lived. It's fine. This story number 3 takes the cake for sure of the worst pageant coaching horror story. I'm calling it the after crown chaos. I'm sure every pageant coach has a client that after they don't win their pageant, they have very big feelings, very big feelings. One client in particular had very big, angry, mean feelings that she targeted at me. And it was even more amplified because the client or the person that she had lost her pageant to, it was a virtual pageant, was another client of mine. So it was very triggering to her to see that she was working with me and that another client of mine won. I probably posted that the client won and celebrated her, to which spurred this after crown chaos story. So this client that her and I were working one-on-one for a few months, we always had a good working relationship. The coaching went well. I enjoyed working with her. But after losing this pageant, it went beyond meltdown into chaos, into just literal after crown chaos. So not only did she proceed to bombard me with phone calls and crying and just saying all these things, like making up assumptions about me, about how I play favoritism with my clients, about how I don't like her, I disrespected her, all of these things. She then took to social media about it. I will say she didn't mention me publicly, but when you know that somebody's working with someone, there is kind of that assumption that somebody could make that she was talking about me. And just essentially saying, like, I need a new pageant coach. Mine doesn't like me. She's not respecting me, da 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 da. Then you might think, oh, that's the after crown chaos. Yep, that makes sense. She was upset. She'll cool off. Nope, that was not the end, my gals. This client, who obviously was no longer a client at that point in time, I did have to block her on my social media because that's how bad the messages were getting in terms of like nonsense. Like there was no communication back and forth. It was just like berating me with messages and hostility and kind of like this creepy, like, I'm gonna get you type of energy. Ooh, this is spooky. I have like a chill running up my spine. What a Halloween episode that we're doing here. But it was just, it was eerie. And I was like, I don't need to subject myself to these messages. I've tried to do my best on my side as a coach to, you know, calm you down and like help talk you off a ledge and just be like, everything's fine. It's no big deal. Like, what we need to do to disseminate like the emotions in the situation. And it was past that point. It was beyond conversing. So then I that technically spurred that on, that anger and that frustration on. So what that client ended up doing was she ended up going to, this was more so in COVID. This wasn't like brand new Maria coach, but it was still kind of like newer coaching. Like it was in like 2021. So I wasn't fully in my business, but I was just starting to take it seriously. She went to, at the time, my national pageant directors and told them about me. I don't even know what she told them about me because I didn't do anything. She went to my international pageant directors. She had messaged, at the time I worked with Pageant Planet, I was one of their co-coaches, and she had messaged them about me because like one of the people who I worked with, who was like the manager of all the coaches, she messaged me about it. She had went to my, at the time I was also working at Good Life Fitness. I was a personal trainer. She messaged my managers there, my managers of Good Life Fitness, and let them know, I don't know, that I was a terrible human being or something like that. And then she also messaged several other pageant coaches in the country, essentially saying, like, explaining the situation, to which then they messaged me and they're like, Maria, are you good? Like, what is going on here? So this person had literally made it their mission because they lost their pageant to like, I don't even know what the goal was at that point. I will say that this person was not fully like not functioning in the most logical way that most people are able to, if you're picking up what I'm laying down. So all I could have at that time, it was very frustrating, I will say. Like I was very, very upset about this because I literally thought, oh my gosh, I'm just starting to take my business seriously. And now this person is like trying to tarnish my name and my integrity to everybody. But I had a lot of compassion for that person. Like, no, I don't tolerate that, but I feel bad for you. Like, if that's what you have to resort to make yourself feel better, like you can't take any ownership or personal responsibility, like that makes me sad for you because I'm just not that angry or upset with my life that I have to go tear other people down or like literally try and ruin their pageant career, their coaching career, their community. Like I just don't, if I am doing that and I have the energy to do that, somebody tell me to go get a life. Somebody tell me to go do something bigger and better with my time. And so then that client, like I said, she went on to compete in a different pageant, did not win. Not surprised there. We're not surprised there, are we? After Crown Chaos, that one takes the cake for the worst pageant horror story, but still, from everything, and oh, we gotta do the lesson in this one. The lesson here, hello, is you have to take responsibility for your losses and your wins. You have to take responsibility for everything. I've lost 5 pageants in my journey of pageantry. And guess what? Never did I ever blame a coach, a director, a judge. No, I look at my own performance, my own presentation, and I say, what could I have improved? Like, how did I contribute to that loss? Right? Because it's me on stage, not those other people. So you got to take full responsibility. Nobody likes somebody like that. Nobody wants that person to win. That person shows why they're not a queen and why they didn't win based on their reaction. Let me tell you, coaching pageant gals, never a dull moment. And I wouldn't change it for the world because I love this industry. I love this work. And honestly, it kind of makes it a little bit of fun. And truthfully, we haven't really had a pageant coaching horror story in the last, oh my gosh, 4 years. Nobody go pulling any funny business, okay? Because I'm not about to tolerate any of it. I love my clients, I love my work, and that just goes to show like how much better our community has been since then. Because obviously, we haven't had those stories to talk about. We live to tell the day. And again, always I want to remind you that pageantry is not just about the crown. It is really about learning how to keep your cool and how to keep your composure under pressure. And that's what makes queens. So no matter what drama pops up, no matter what big emotions and feelings pop up, always, always, always be someone who acts out of integrity and out of grace. That goes so far. And that alone is what wins in pageants. So, pageant gals, again, happy Halloween. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I literally don't think we could do another one because I can't think of another pageant coaching horror story. But if I do, I will have to put together another episode. But keep your chin up, keep your crown on. And hey, if you have a horror story that you want to share with me, send me a message. I'd love to hear and bask in your misery too. And I will see you all in the next one. I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel like I'm like re-traumatized from reliving those stories that I don't even know how to end this. I love you all. Chin up, crown on, go enjoy your Halloween, and I will see you in the next episode.